Hey y'all, it's Jen, and I have tonight the first date book tag. If you see me looking down, it's because I have my cheat sheet questions right there. This original video was created by Kate's Book Date, and I will tag the original video below. I was tagged to do this video by Abel from Young Adult Author Show. And so the first question is, it's your awkward first date. A book where something felt off. It wasn't a bad book, but it just lacked that spark for you. And for this book, I chose The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And I just don't think magical realism is for me. I couldn't really get into it. It was real slow. It jumped around way too much for me, and I just don't think I was able to get the full feel of the book. It just didn't do it for me. And I know it's a real popular book that lots of people love, but not for me. Question number 2 is The Cheap First Date. A book that turned out less than you expected. And for me, that is going to be any John Green book. The 2 that I have read, Paper Towns and Will Grayson, rave reviews from lots of people, lots of hype on them, and I just don't get it. I was expecting so much more, and they just fell completely flat for me. I think both of those were 2-star reads for me. Maybe 3. Maybe one of them was a 3. I don't know. Totally not what I expected. Question number 3 is the well-prepared first date, which is one that was better than expected. For me, that was Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I'm really not into a lot of fanfic, and the first half of that book, I thought, I don't like this, because it was really had that fanfic Harry Potter Draco feel to it, but by about the halfway point, it completely transformed into its own book for me, and I got it. I completely understood the hype at that point, and it just really turned out a lot better than I expected it when I first started it. Number 4 is The Hot But Dumb book. Pretty book, not so hot on the inside. For me, that was The Accident Season by Mariah Fowley Doyle. Look how pretty that cover is. That's pretty awesome. I hated this book. It was hugely problematic for me. It was so bad. I gave it 1 star, and that was being generous. Typically, my 1-star books are reserved for books that I DNF. I read this whole book. It was that bad for me. I absolutely despise it. And I don't understand the hype at all. I wanted to like it. I was very intrigued by the concept, but it was awful. Just don't read it. Skip it. It was horrible. Question number 5, Blind Date. This is a book that you picked up that you didn't know anything about. For me, that book was Magonia, and I can't remember the author's name right now, but it is one of my favorite books that I've read in last year, and I actually picked it up by the cover alone. The cover was so intriguing. Every time I walked into the bookstore, I gravitated towards this book. I picked it up, walked around with it, put it down. I did this for probably 3 months before I finally just bit the bullet and got it. And actually, I ended up getting it on audiobook, and I loved it. It was nothing that I'd ever listened to or read before. The concept was amazing. So I'm really glad I did end up picking it up. And question number 6, Speed Dating. A book you read super fast. For me, that was The Fill-In Boyfriend, which is a little ironic since we're talking about dates, by Casey West. I actually read that probably in about 24 hours. It was one sitting, mostly. I started the first couple of chapters the night before, fell asleep. I was reading it on my Kindle, and then the next day I actually read it in full, the whole rest of it, in just took me about 4 or 5 hours. I'm a slower reader though. Question number 7, The Rebound. A book you read too soon after a book hangover, and it kind of ruined it for you. So I don't have a book for this because I really don't get book hangovers a lot. I'm in a little bit of a slump right now, and Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare is what I'm blaming it on, because I did kind of leave me in a little bit of a book hangover for it. But I just finished a book, and it didn't distract from that book at all. That book happened to be a 4.5-star read for me. So usually for book hangovers, I get into a slump, and it takes me a day or two, sometimes a week, before I'm even ready to pick up a book again. But it doesn't affect that book for me, so I don't have anything for this one. Number 8, The Overenthusiastic Date. A book that felt like it was trying too hard. For me, this was Brooklyn by Colm Tobian, or Tobian. I'm not real sure how to pronounce that. I read this last year, towards the end of last year, and I really, really wanted to love this book. It actually featured an accountant. It was kind of a historical fiction book, all set in New York and Brooklyn. Typically all these things that I really enjoy in books, but this one did not work well for me. He tried to make you like the main character way too hard, and she was not a likable character in the end. Had no backbone. I was really disappointed in the choices she made, and I think he just tried to make that story fit too much, and it didn't work well for me. Number 9, The Perfect First Date. A book that did everything right for you. I actually can't choose. I have 4, so I'm going to tell you all of them. Cassandra Clare's Lord of Shadows. This book had every single element that I love in a book. I laughed, I cried, I got angry, I was calm. I mean, it just, all the range of emotions, I had it in that book. I'm not going to spoil anything because it just came out, and it's very possible to be a huge spoiler, so I'm just going to leave it at that. It was perfect. It was perfect. Even though the end destroyed me. The second one is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, and I gave this one a 5-star. I loved it. It was not a story that, like anything that I'd really ever read before. It had such unique characters. I loved the 2 main characters. First in a fantasy series. Second book is just as good. The third book's not out yet, so we need, hopefully that will come soon. Come on, Sabah, keep writing. I need that third book. The next one is The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Audier. This book was an amazing book for me. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, if not 5. I just loved her stories and the way her writing style and the way it was all weaved together. It is a retelling of 1001 Nights, which is a story I really enjoy anyway. I love Aladdin. It's probably one of my favorite Disney movies, and the story itself, I just really love that whole concept. So I definitely recommend it too. It was really a perfect book for me. Finally, it's actually 2 books in this last one too, so maybe it's 5 books that are my perfect first dates. But finally, we've got the Six of Crows duology, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. These were amazing books. They were amazing, and I can't really say much more about it because my battery's going to die if I do, but she has become the standard to which I judge all my books by at this point. They were that good to me. I loved her writing. I love her characters. I love their interactions, and I love that world that she creates, the Grishaverse. I love it. Very unique, very, I don't know, what other adjectives can I use to throw in there for that? So let's move on. The final question, question number 10, is The Humiliating First Date. It's in a book that you're embarrassed to admit that you liked, or you're embarrassed to be seen reading in public for whatever reason. And I don't really have a specific book for this, more of a genre, and that is smut. I really enjoy the smut books that have a two male leading characters. I like that, and I read those on my Kindle because I don't want to be questioned about those. I'm not really embarrassed by it because I'm not embarrassed by anything I read, but it could get a little dicey in certain contexts out in public. So that's it. It looks like my battery's about to die, so I hope it's still recording. Gonna end it now very quickly. Not tagging anybody, so if you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. Let me know that you are doing this video. I'd love to check yours out. And be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content. Until next time, bye.